Hello, we are Rod and Denise Nickel, and we're here to talk to you about Western Saddle Fit.
What we're doing is kind of going through parts of our Well Beyond the Basics 6-hour saddle fit video series and just talking about some of the information that's not necessarily in there, but about the sections. Last time we talked to you about the basic principles. This time there's a short section there about analogies on Western Saddle Fit. We have the first one there is on what should a saddle fit like. That's only on Well Beyond the Basics. We've got a short one on cutlery and saddle fit, and believe me, there's a connection. We've got a blog post on that, but then it's only on the Well Beyond the Basics. It's not on any of our other videos. And then we have the bell curve and saddle fit. And that's also only on the videos on the Well Beyond the Basics, but it's also a blog post. So, the point of the bell curve is that Western saddles are designed to fit a range of horses, not just an individual horse at a specific moment in time. Why is that?
Well, Western saddles were made with a very specific purpose from the beginning. They started out in their evolution, if you want to call it that, and their designing and how they came about by the Spaniards coming over and having vast areas of land and taking care of cattle, and they needed a saddle that they could ride for long periods of time in those vast areas. So they developed things like a fork on it with a horn that you could tie onto to catch cattle with, larger cantles in the back to support you, and especially larger bars, the support for the rider on the horse's back to distribute the weight so that the horse could handle that kind of work and not get sore.
And that's in contrast to the English saddles. This is an English saddle tree. It's actually a larger one than what you often find today. It's out of an older saddle. And English saddles were designed to be not so much working saddles. They were used for transportation. You had to get from one place to the other. It was a saddle. Or now they're primarily used when you're going to ride your horse. A Western saddle can be used to go and ride your horse, but very often they're used as you ride your horse, as you're checking the fence or checking the cattle or working out of them. An English one, you're going to go and ride your horse for an hour or two, and that's the purpose that they're being used for now. And as you can see, it's a lot smaller, a lot lighter, and has a lot less surface area on it than a Western saddle tree, because they're different. With a Western saddle tree, the bars are what fits the horse. Here, the tree has to have the same general basic shape to fit the horse, but a lot of the fine fitting is done with the panels. And the panels are stuffed, or flocked is the term, with different materials. And so they're made, this is your panel area on each side, and you can see the difference between the surface area even on these panels versus the surface area on the Western saddle tree. And so when we talked last time about distributing the pressure over time, so you've got the amount of area as well is needed, so you've got a much smaller surface area ridden for a less amount of time. You don't have too much pressure on your horse, it doesn't sore your horse. Whereas the amount of time that you're riding, you need more surface area than what a typical English saddle is going to give you for the amount of time that you usually use on Western saddles. Now part of that, when you read the internet, there's all sorts of rules about saddle fit, and most of them actually come out of English saddle fit. And so one of the rules you read is that you can't have any weight on the loin of the horse or past the last rib or past the 18th thoracic vertebrae. So if you put an English saddle on top of the Western one, you can see what happens. The English saddle stops here. The Western one goes a lot further back. Western saddles do go on the loin of the horse. They have for decades, and even hundreds of years maybe, and they don't kill the horses. It's perfectly okay. You don't want high pressure there, you don't want the tips digging in, you don't want bridging, but if they match the shape of the horse, it's perfectly okay to have pressure on the loin of the horse. There's no studies that say otherwise. The internet says otherwise, people say otherwise, but there's actually been no real studies to show that there's any detrimental effect on the horse if there's some pressure on the loin of the horse due to a Western saddle. So that's the difference between English and Western on surface area and pressure.
And it's interesting with that aspect of the no pressure on the loins of the horse. English riders don't get mad because they can't rope a cow out of an English saddle, but yet they expect that for some reason you can't have weight going over this area going back onto the loin of the horse. It just doesn't work. They're a completely different system of doing things. There's a different design. And this is designed to carry weight over all of it, not just concentrated parts of it. So it gets distributed over all of it, and therefore none of it has high concentrated pressure. So it works just fine, and has for hundreds of years, literally.
Now, I wouldn't want to take this saddle and try jumping 6 feet in it, like
No.
you would in an English saddle. Different reasons, different purposes. But that's why we need saddle fit information on Western saddles from people who come from the Western area, who understand Western saddles, and can give you common sense, correct information about it. And that's what we're trying to do.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.